Hi, I'm Ashley Sneed, and I'm a producer. I work with Aaron at Paper Street Pictures, and I'm originally from Pittsburgh, so when I got the call to come here and be a judge, I was all about it. And I'm also with Brandon and Aaron with Blood Oath, which is our consulting company on horror films.
Hey everyone, I'm Brandon Hill, and as Ashley mentioned, I'm with Blood Oath as well. I also am in acquisitions at Cinedigm. We also own Bloody Disgusting and the SVOD service Screenbox. And I'm back here for a second year in a row and happy to be back.
Hi everybody, I'm Jackie George, filmmaker. Worked in Los Angeles for over 30 years, and I've been on both sides. So I've been where you are in pitching projects, but I've been on the other side as an executive at Warner Brothers hearing pitches. So I can't wait to see what you all have to show us and tell us.
And hey everyone, I am so sorry I couldn't be there. I got a mysterious bout of COVID, so I'm feeling okay though, but wish I could be there. But yes, long time filmmaker, have produced close to 20 films at this point, written and directed for others, and we're excited to see what you all have to offer and hopefully get some insights and maybe find a cool project for Blood Oath and Paper Street Pictures.
Awesome. Thank you all for being here, and now, without further ado, we're going to get to our pitches. Our first project is How Green Is My Uncanny Valley, and we have Matt and Ryan here. Let's give them a hand.
Hey, I'm Ryan Imhoff.
And I'm Matt Neal.
Matt and I have been telling fucked up stories together since we were 11 years old.
And we've got a bonkers one for you today. So picture this, Mel Gibson, circa Lethal Weapon 2, fucks Clarence Boddicker from RoboCop.
You might know him better as the dad from that 70s show.
Yeah, so Mel fucks the dad from that 70s show, and a hero is born.
Zane motherfucking Branson. It's 1987, and Zane is a hard-living, alcoholic, rascal cop for the ages. And he's on the outs with his small town after shooting a kid.
Don't worry, he's more disgusted with himself than you probably are.
One morning while making his daily breakfast run to the liquor store, Zane stops a robbery the way he always does, by shooting first and asking questions later. But this time, the blood that he's shed is bright goddamn green. And Zane finds himself dick deep in a conspiracy to destroy the human race, involving shit-eating humanoids, one sexy-ass assassin who likes her drink stiff and her dick stiffer, and a politician who's as hungry for power as he is for the flesh of infants.
Zane will do anything to save the world from these green, bleeding bitches. But he'll also do anything for a bottle of Evan Williams and a rough hand job. And after a series of brawls, broads, and depraved shenanigans, Zane arrives at a final showdown. You gotta see to believe.
How Green Was My Uncanny Valley is an old-school, low-rent grindhouse flick that's a ton of fucking fun until it isn't. The quintessential action set pieces and hard-boiled one-liners will hook you. The cock and ball torture sequence and scat interlude will keep you gagging. But the question behind it all, why do we worship the heroes that we do, will gnaw at you.
Uncanny is the VHS that we would have loved to find in our local video store when we were kids. And we're confident that there's another pair of weirdo 11-year-olds out there that's gonna love this movie. And until then, we'll quote Zane, "Cowabunga, cocksuckers." Thank you very much. Thank you.
Anybody?
Judges.
I have a question. Why Uncanny Valley?
Well, the Uncanny Valley is something we're all dealing with, especially as deep fakes become prevalent, but it's basically something that's ingrained in us as humans. That's the central question, too. Why do we have this survival mechanism that kicks in when we see something that looks almost human but isn't and makes us feel nauseous. So that is the idea behind it. The villains are the variants, humanoids who look and sound almost exactly like us, but something's a little bit off in their eyes.
Could we put your pitch deck up, please?
Of course.
I had a question. Have you guys seen Manborg?
What's the name?
Manborg?
No, I have not.
I've not seen Manhorn.
It definitely feels so. Like when I'm hearing the pitch, I mean that's the movie that I think of, which is Stephen Kostansky, who did Psycho Gorman. That's one of their earlier films. It was very low budget, but just kind of balls to the wall and kind of had that cult appeal and what could kind of come with it. So it definitely had that. But I will say the difference with that is that was a like $200,000 movie, and I believe your ask here is like over $1 million, $1 to $2 million.
As written, yeah, that's what it would take to do justice. If cuts are made or certain locations are reimagined, we could come in under that for sure.
Sure. Yeah, you just at that price point. So typically in a deck, I think you got to be careful about what budgets you're putting in there, unless you really know you should know what you should make it for at the least amount. Like, what is it that you have to have as a production budget? Because at $2 million in this type of content, you're still going to have some kind of a name in this to get that much money.
Yeah.
So, and that's a hard sell because it's such an extreme thing. But there are, you're going to go the Nick Cage route, right? And people are going to try that. But there's 100 movies that are going the Nick Cage route, and they're trying to get him in right now, in order to kind of get something like this financed. So, and he's working with people that he's kind of worked with before. But there's really, just a handful of folks that can kind of qualify that. So, my first just kind of, advice would be try and find what this can mean in as low of a budget as possible, but still keeping that absurdity. Like, just lean into the crazy and let those seams happen. Don't worry about making the action set pieces perfect. Just make it a little more, Manborg, Manborg, you can feel the DIY of that movie. And I think that played to its strengths. And then it played a lot of great festivals and it launched those careers. So anyway, that would be my initial advice.
2-minute warning.
Thank you, Erik.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that was also to me, and Aaron and I both have produced a lot of movies, and that definitely popped out when I looked through the pitch deck originally, the $1 to $2 million, especially when you're talking about the kind of a grindhouse B movie thing that you're going after. You can do, and you also have a lot of assets. Like when I looked at your list, it seems like you guys have a composer, VFX, some special effects, makeup. Like you have a lot, and so I think I would definitely try to think about the lower number, because a lot of people who have been producing for a while may see that and kind of be like, well, you may not actually need that, or you're going to need a cast to support that number, and that'll be a challenge probably for any of us to get that sort of cast, a lot of times.
Well, and just to add on, I'm curious because we looked at the deck and looked at the first 5 pages, but what are some of the action set pieces perhaps that we're not seeing yet that might be part of the cost too? That might be helpful to better understand.
Totally. This is a movie that could look and, feel like Lethal Weapon 2. It could also feel more like Street Trash or Manborg, as you're mentioning. But, as written, there's an epic, showdown in the rain involving, 20 police cars while the hero is completely nude fighting these, vicious creatures.
30
so
seconds.
it would be scaling down and reimagining.
I think another question I have about your pitch deck is, I think you should start with this film rather than with Fresh Hell. Let us know about this film, and you could add Fresh Hell later.
Great.
But I don't want to hear about a film you have done when you're pitching me this film. Mm-hmm. And so I think that would be very helpful. And then my other note was the same thing: is compare this. This is a $1.2 million, but your comparison films are like $10 million films. So you need to compare this to something equidistant in budget, and be nice, because I worked on Lethal Weapon 3. So,
Sure.
But, do you know what I'm saying? So just make sure that when that person picks up your pitch deck and looks at it, open it with this film, and then later talk about the credits that you have.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And street
Thank you,
trash, by the way.
everybody. We gotta wrap. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Street Trash is a good movie, though. That's what I was saying. It's a good comp.
Next up, Jacob Parrott for Morbid Curiosity.
All right. Yeah, hello, everyone. My name is Jacob Parrott. Really quickly, before I get into everything, I just want to give a huge shout out to everyone in the audience. Thank you guys so much for coming out tonight and not only supporting film, but filmmakers like myself as well. Thank you to John and everyone who put on this wonderful event for Eerie. It's awesome. And thank you to the panelists as well for making the trip out here. And I realize that your time is valuable, so I just appreciate you taking the time to listen. Aaron, I hope you feel better. So the project that I wanted to share with you guys today is a project that I've wanted to make for a really long time. It's called Morbid Curiosity, and it is a horror drama about my very broken relationship with religion. The film follows our main character named Reed. He's a man in his 50s, and he's so afraid of death that he becomes a priest as a means of escaping that fear and answering the big question of what happens when we die. And now, because he made this religious conversion later on in his life, it sort of causes a fracturing in his family dynamic. He has a wife who is very anti-religious and a daughter named Susan who is sort of starting to follow in her mother's footsteps. And because of this, Reed is constantly worrying about where they're going to end up when they die. So in order to combat this fear, he invites Susan over to the parsonage one night where he now lives, and they're sitting down together with one another, and they're having dinner, and for the first time in such a long time, Susan feels as if she knows her father, and she's connecting with him. But then Reed brings up the fact that he would like her to start going to church more, and then she gets angry. And she calls him selfish, and she storms out of the parsonage, and as she's driving home, she gets into a car accident, and from there she's escorted to the hospital where she's pronounced dead. And then, whether it be through a miracle or perhaps even divine intervention, she's brought back, she's resuscitated, and with her she brings the news of the horror that she saw in the afterlife. And when she tells Reed, when she tells her father, it couldn't be further from what he has come to believe. This sort of sends him on a spiral into madness as he tries to solve an unsolvable question. And one of the big questions that I wanted to pose with the film was, what happens when a God-fearing man is no longer afraid? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you for that. Wanted to ask, so on the deck, which I think is really well made, one of the things I did want to see more of is the actual horror side of it, because at least in terms of what's here with the plot and whatnot, I wanted just a little bit more to see where this is going, because on paper, including the first 5 pages, I feel like we've seen this before, and I want to see what that spin is, especially because of your background and some of the things that you can bring to this as from more of a personal perspective. But also I want to see more of the genre elements in there to really sell me without having to have read the full script.
Okay.
But otherwise, I mean, I thought the deck itself, it's polished, it looks good, there's a lot of the right elements in there. I would say maybe another page or so of just giving us a little bit more of what this could be would be exciting to me personally.
Okay.
I really loved your pitch deck. I love the use of dialogue beside your photos. It made sense to me.
Yeah.
But I, too, like Brandon, I want to see a little bit more of where we're going in a pitch deck. Like, what makes this something that we want to buy, you know? And I think you're almost there.
Yeah.
But you did a great job, and I like where you're going with it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. My notes were that you hit all of the main points: the synopsis, the writer's statement, characters, learning about you. You have that little blurb about who you are, which is always really important to me to know who the writer, director, or team is.
Yeah.
And then I think, just if you can say how this because tonally, you totally convey what you're going for, and I can kind of see what this movie is going to look like and kind of make some guesses about where I think it might go. But in a pitch deck, it's okay to reveal the end, even the ending. I mean, you can tell us the entire story. That's what you're trying to pitch, right?
Yeah.
So you want to tell us why this is different than anything we've seen before.
Yeah, it was because the idea is so conceptual. It's about the fear of death, and it's such a existential, like in your head fear, which I think I expand in the third act, showing it in a physical, because obviously film's a visual medium. It was I was trying to hurdle. Oh, how do I show something that's a mental fear in the physical world? But then I was worried about, am I telling too much, or so that's why. But yeah, I understand.
Yeah,
What
you want to
budget
tell us.
Two
what
minutes.
budget range are you thinking for this?
Yeah, so as far as budget's concerned, I've done a handful of projects that have all been crowdfunded through sites like Indiegogo and stuff like that. A lot of them not even like $5,000 productions. So I think there are a lot of variables. I wrote it to be very minimal budget, like maybe $250,000, something like that. It takes place in a church in the middle of winter. There's two main locations. As people in Erie know, snow is the scariest thing ever. But I'd say maybe like $250,000, something like that.
Just be a little careful with all of the rain and storm sequences, because that could, you wanted to shoot it in a half a day and it could take 5.
Right.
So just be careful with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to say that, well, first off, this is my favorite deck, as everyone's already alluded to. And then I really liked your tone reel. I thought the tone reel was well done. It got me interested in it. And I mean, I will say a deck exists many times to get you to want to read the script, and I am curious to read the full script. So from that aspect, you completely won me over. I will say, to Brandon's point, right now there is a little bit of a kind of follow the lead in trying to do A24 horror.
Right.
So just be careful that people, there's a lot of that out there. There's a lot of like, oh, this is Saint Maud, this is, these types, or even some IFC Midnights. Just know we're kind of cognizant of that, and just be, it's something that we're sensitive to. So I think, it's like, how do you separate yourself? So right now I am intrigued to read the script, but it's going to be, does that third act like punch through in a way that separates it from everything else that's out there? And if it does, I think you have something on your hands, but if it doesn't, it would be an immediate pass.
Right.
For just those reasons. But your content and everything else is really great, and you had a very sweet intro, and you complimented me, so that always works well for me. So
Thank you, thank you everyone so much.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Very good job.
Awesome. And sorry, let me catch up here, friends. What do we have next? We've got A Girl and Her Dog by Erik Brown.
Hello, everyone. I am Erik Brown, and I am pitching A Girl and Her Dog. To begin, I'm an avid consumer of horror. I probably watch 3 to 4 horror movies every week. I basically live on Shudder. I am also an enormous lover of dogs. I'm a dog person through and through, and I noticed that there are very few horror films about dogs. You basically have like Cujo or Rottweiler, and these can be hard movies to watch if you love dogs, especially considering the dogs are the bad guys. I want to see the dogs excel. No matter how much horror or gore or blood or bad things happen, the love between an animal and a human should be a celebration that never ends. And that's why I want to pitch A Girl and Her Dog. This should be a movie for lovers of horror and dogs alike. A Girl and Her Dog is a horror dark comedy that really focuses on those unbreakable bonds between a person and their pet. Here's the premise. Slum Frank is a dog fighter who just kicked out a dog who keeps losing. And then he finds out that the dog is a very rare, unknown breed that is worth a lot of money. And he wants the dog back. Unfortunately for him, unfortunately for Slum Frank, the dog has a new owner, and she loves her best friend very much. The film starts with an ordinary day, and then it quickly escalates into chaos and madness, as you can probably tell. In this film, nothing is as it seems. Why is it that no one recognizes the dog's breed? Why do light bulbs suddenly explode when the girl gets upset? Why are Slum Frank's hired goons afraid to hide out in the girl's attic? How did a day that started so ordinary and simple end like this? The answers to these questions and much more can be found in A Girl and Her Dog. I hope you will consider the pitch, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so first of all, I really liked your pitch deck. It's very, it pops a lot. I love the art in it. The colors, like everything is that, looks great. You don't have a bio in there. So this is my first time learning who you are, so I would definitely say, even if, I don't know what your experience is, even if you're coming to film for the first time and you're an engineer, I want to know that. I want to know what films you've done, what career you've had before this, what you're trying to do, just about the team and about you. I would definitely add that in. But overall, for the film, I think it's great to hear you say what the tone of it is here in your pitch, that it's a dark comedy horror, and to hear what you're thinking, because I don't know that all came through in the pitch deck. The pitch deck looks great, and you have a lot of good elements in it, but you definitely want to hone into telling us what that tone is and what exactly this movie is.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, and also on the deck, with the characters, I would recommend that you name the goons. Give us a little bit more to it, because it's just, we've seen a lot of decks, and sometimes this is kind of a common thing to see both in scripts and in the decks, and especially because there's supposed bigger characters within this film. I would recommend naming them. Also, I'll agree with Ashley that the deck is really, it's cute. It's catchy. I haven't seen anything quite like it with some of the animation, so I like that. I did read the first 5 pages though, and felt that the two were quite different. Granted, the rest of the script could play out much more in line with the tone of what you're doing here, but that was the biggest thing I had trouble with, is just trying to figure out where it was going to go.
Okay.
Same here, pretty much. When I read it, and then I watched a pitch deck first, and then when I read it, I got a little confused because I didn't feel like they matched. Is this horror? Is this comedy? Is it a comedy of horrors? I don't know. And then a little bit about Anna and the dog. I'd just like there be a little bit of suspense, like maybe does one of them have power? You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like you, a dog lover. I like them way better than people. So, but I would like to see that, somewhere we see in those first 5 pages and on the pitch deck some suspenseful horror thing that we could say, oh, okay, I want to read the rest of that script.
Okay.
Yeah, look, I think you have a great opportunity because you talked about the love of dogs, right? Because there is something there in horror. We are so used to killing animals in horror movies. And, I even love Man's Best Friend, and stuff like that. I think but those are all killer dogs. Whereas my favorite moments in other horror movies, like Prey, I think the dog in Prey, is just so lovable and you care so much. And then I Am Legend, I think the dog that dies in that is just the most heartbreaking moment. So if you can really help us understand the emotion of what it's like to lose that dog and the extreme lengths you will go to overcome that emotion, because that's conflict. And conflict in your script is everything. So you've built in a natural hook where an audience can want to connect to, you've lost your dog, you're going to get it back at all costs. And I think there's something interesting to that. And I think, so I liked where you were starting with that, but that's where I want to feel. I want to feel that conflict and that emotion. As far as the deck itself, I liked it. I thought it was too busy though. I think there were too many things on too many pages. And I think if you just, even made it longer and just kind of spread it out a little more and then focus some on the characters, maybe some comps of the types of actors you're looking for, I think could have helped too.
Okay,
One
thank
minute.
you.
1 minute. Anybody else?
No, I mean,
Keep going, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? This is not a negative at all. This is just positive feedback and keep, maybe scale it back and some of the points we've addressed and don't give up.
Okay. And just quickly, one of the tones that I did want to try to set, and it, like you guys said, it didn't entirely come off in the decks, but very much like in the Stephen King vein, where everything that he does it starts off normal. You don't want, when it starts off, I don't even want you to get that glimpse of horror yet, so that when it starts to descend, that's when you're like, oh man, I didn't expect those things to start coming. There was a little bit of an intentional design to keep it slightly mysterious as to where it was going, but it's definitely something I want to revisit with that feedback.
Thank you, Eric. Thanks, everybody.
thank you.
Next we have by Braden McClain, RUSALKA.
Hello, everybody. My name is Braden McClain, and I am the writer of RUSALKA. I am just probably going to jump right into it. So, in the 1990s, a 20-year-old Peter Danivska is spending his summer at his family's lakeside cabin out in the woods. Alongside with him is his mom, his dad, and his younger sister who just recently graduated from high school. And as with pretty much any sibling relationship, Peter picks on her. His sister Katya, she annoys the ever-living hell out of him. It's something that anybody with a sibling can understand. But in that same breath, every sibling knows that the second that somebody starts messing with your sibling, now, only I get to mess with them. So Peter plays his overprotective brother role very well. However, he also, unfortunately, has a tendency to escalate things further than what they really need to go, which is especially true one night when Katya's ex shows up to the lake house uninvited and unannounced and assaults Katya. Peter attempts to intervene, but unfortunately, as she is attacked in the woods, Katya falls into the lake and drowns. Peter rushes into the water, attempting to grab her, pull her to the shore, trying to resuscitate her, but is unable to revive his sister. And that's when he turns his fury toward the man responsible and chases him down through the woods, picks up a rock off the forest floor, and beats his skull in. Peter is arrested and sent to prison. 30 years later, Peter is released from prison. It is now the 2020s, and with nowhere else to go, Peter is forced to go back to the lakeside home where his sister was murdered. It isn't long before some odd things begin happening around the property. Strange disembodied voices coming from the seemingly calm waters of the lake. Wet humanoid footprints across a bone-dry deck just appearing, seemingly overnight. Peter, being the rational person that he really is, he tries to figure out what it is, assuming that it's a squatter who's just been in the area. His family's not been around. Anybody could be living around there. So him, being the rational person he is, goes and invests in some motion detecting lights, changes out the locks on the doors, does everything he can to keep the property safe. But later that night, as one of the motion detecting alarms are alerted, turns on, Peter rushes outside to confront whatever it is and narrowly escapes with his life as suddenly this strange, thin, monstrous creature rushes at him from the lake. And Peter is horrified to realize and recognize this creature as his dead sister, Katya. But exactly what has Katya become? Well, according to some lovely legends that I was told growing up from Eastern European folklore, there's a creature known as the RUSALKA. that any time that a young woman drowns in a body of water at the hand of somebody else, her soul is trapped in that body of water. Now, similar to naiads of ancient Greece or the nixies of Germanic cultures, they try to pull victims into the water to feed on them. However, what separates RUSALKA from every other water-based mythological creature in the world is that RUSALKA can leave the water whenever the outside ground is wet. So, if it's raining, if there's fog, if even the nightly dew suddenly becomes a hunting ground around the lake for the RUSALKA. But exactly what are they hunting for? According to those same legends, the only way for a RUSALKA to break their curse is to kill the one responsible for their death. However, her brother Peter already killed the one responsible for her death. So Peter is now torn between protecting himself, self-preservation, and helping his little sister, trying to find anything he can, trying to learn about exactly what in the ever-living hell this creature is that is now stalking and trying to kill him every night. Going in even a step further, trying to make sure that nobody finds out about her, trying to protect her. But unfortunately, being just released from prison, one day a parole officer shows up, and it begins to rain, and Peter watches in horror as this creature sprints from the water and attacks and kills this police officer. Now, Peter knows that a countdown has just started. More police officers are going to be showing up at any time to investigate this officer's death. He knows that he's going to be blamed for this murder, and the only difference between telling the truth as to what happened and lying about it, telling them that a creature came from the water and killed this man, is that it will only change his orange prison jumpsuit to a white straitjacket. So, Peter has to make a choice. Either he protects his sister, sacrifices his own freedom so that she can be okay, his one last remaining family member, or he can let go of his overprotective nature and realize that this RUSALKA is not the young woman that he once knew. I will give you the rest of the time for questions.
Everybody, we only have about 1 minute.
Thank you.
Real quick, so thank you for that. That was a great pitch. With the concept and the kind of the twist that's here, I do have a question and just, I guess, better understanding as to why the sister is going after him still, because even though, yes, he killed what the RUSALKA would normally go after, I guess I just don't understand that part of the mythology and how that would work. Is it laid out more in the script?
Absolutely. I apologize. So pretty much after 30 years of waiting for anybody to come around this abandoned lake, taking anybody that can possibly come through, it very much becomes a more ravenous nature of praying to God that whoever comes by, whoever is unlucky enough to be in the water or even near the water, if they kill them, maybe that was it. But it's all just luck of the chance at this point.
Guys, I want to give everybody the same amount of time, and we are out of time.
Thank you.
All right, and last but not least, we have the incel from Matt. Matt, you out there?
You look familiar.
Matt and Ryan.
Better than ever.
Hello
We're
again.
back.
And I'm Matt.
I'm Ryan.
If we didn't mention before, we are longtime creative partners. We've had the opportunity to create some pretty gnarly horror over the years.
This bad boy's our most horrifying because it's real, because it keeps happening, and it'll keep happening until more people talk about it.
And it is the incel.
That's an involuntary celibate in 4chan message board lingo.
Billy Flaum is a nice guy who's never had sex. He's never kissed a girl. He's never even held a girl's hand. And he used to be able to ignore his loserdom with video games and weed, but he can no longer cope. And if he doesn't at least kiss a girl by his 30th birthday, he's going to kill himself.
After Billy throws an epic tantrum at a family gathering that's caught on camera and goes viral, he finds an online cesspool, a community of incels who gather to voice their perceived victimhood. And to the horror of Billy's lovely, loving family, they watch helplessly along with us as Billy's swept away by a violent, racist, misogynistic internet cult.
Despite his new friends, Billy makes one last attempt to stay alive by finding a girl who will give him that kiss before his 30th birthday. But when his idea of the manic pixie dream girl doesn't pan out, he pursues vengeance by plowing a van into a women's rights march.
This is a tough one, but it's here and it's not going away. We'd all rather look away from it, but it is a slice of life that is here. In my research, I found myself nauseous at the internet bubble that I'd poked. It's a dark universe that corresponds directly with QAnon, Proud Boys, homegrown fascism, and I was reading about this 4 years before the media and all of us started talking about it. But I also found myself feeling a sliver of empathy for what led these young men to this point, and that scared me the most. The incel is taxi driver for our social media set.
Seeing yourself as a monster just might turn you into one. Hashtag thoughts and prayers. Thank you.
I have a question. On pages 1 and 2, you have a rather large voiceover. What is going to be on screen during that?
Oh, that's his face. We get a good look at his face. He's obsessed with how he looks, how he comes off to the world, and although he's got a unique face, he considers himself a monster. So we're on him, close.
Okay, and same thing as I said on your other film, this is a 300,000 to 500,000. So make sure your comparisons are the
Yes.
same, and make sure that your script can hold on to that budget.
Yeah, sure. It's a great note.
Thank you.
Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think this is tough. I think, so number one, I want to see incels taken down. I am all about finding places that we can expose them. I just worry, it's hard to know in just these first few pages in here, because if this is going to be your main character, you know, there's going to be a level of sympathy that's with them. I was an executive producer on a film called The Pizzagate Massacre, which was a satire, very deliberately, because we had to find a way to kind of separate and comment on what is going on. So this just seems like it feels a little bit, when you say Taxi Driver, I think that is a good comp, but Taxi Driver at the time just felt like someone losing their mind, whereas this hits home. You know, we see this happening in the real world, and I don't know if a lot of audiences are going to want to experience that. So that's my first, just being very blunt. I think that, you know, it's a good pitch. I think the pages read really well too. I thought, you know, there's good dialogue in there, but it's just going to be a tough sell.
Yeah, it's not for everyone, and it's not meant to be.
Yeah, and also I think it's important that within the story, Billy the incel, you know, sometimes these stories, Taxi Driver, Joker, they begin to lend their protagonist, antagonists, they give them some glory at the end of the movie, and we don't really seek to do that with the story. We don't seek to glorify Billy's condition whatsoever, and in fact, you know, the explosive ending is unexpected because the tables are mostly turned on him, and rather than feeling this dread of, oh gosh, we're going to have to watch him do this terrible thing, well, we actually get to see the good guy win.
I think for me as a woman, you know, there's a little bit of gratuitous words in there. You know, I understand what your point is. I do. The other question I had is, why is it January 2016?
It's a time capsule piece. That's when this movement really started gaining steam. 2014 was the first massacre. Elliot Rogers, I believe his name was, although we shouldn't even say it. 2016 it overlaps directly with the rise of Trump and kind of this joke candidate that they could get behind, because if that man could be president, surely they could get a kiss.
Maybe point to that a little bit, you know, just so there's not any confusion.
Thank you.
We're good.
1 minute.
Thank you, guys.
Anyone else?
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Hey, one more point to all of you. Some of you did have a log line, some of you didn't. It's really important when you open up your pitch deck, have a log line, a very short description, because it really helps us as readers get to know, okay, this is what we're reading. So just make sure you include that. Thank you all so
And a
much.
bio.
We'll be back.
And a bio. I love bios.
All right. First of all, we want to thank all of you for your submissions. This was not an easy choice for the four of us, but in the end, we have come to the winner being RUSALKA. Congratulations. And it comes down to basically, we felt that it was the best idea. It has a lot of myth potential. It's just something that we want to see, and it seems original, it seems fresh, it seems mythical, and that's where it's at. And we wanted to let Morbid Curiosity know that you came in a very, very close second. We loved your script, we loved your pitch, we loved your writing, and for all of the rest of you, I think you know what we had told you, and if you have any questions, you know, we're happy to answer them. But we want to thank you so much for bringing them. Keep writing, keep your ideas fresh, keep going, and don't ever give up. It took me a million years to get in, you know, so don't think that one no is going to stop you, because it won't.
Well, that's amazing. Does anybody else have anything to add? Aaron, do you want to add anything since you're remote?
I just wanted to say that this is an interesting situation that we kind of had here, and I wanted to kind of illustrate that, where the best actual pitch in my mind, and I think all of our minds, was Morbid Curiosity. So that was probably the best pitch. But in the end, we are in the business of trying to get movies made. And RUSALKA has the best idea. And I think that idea hooked us. There's, folklore right now is selling. There's a new line is developing a number of different folklore films. After La Llorona, they've done a few of those, and they're kind of, coming back to that well. So there is something that's, important there. And I think we're looking for ideas that we can take and develop and turn into something. I will say I am still a little confused by the brother thing and even the explanation. But again, it didn't matter, because the visuals that you had in the deck of this like monster, it's a creature feature, I can see it. The 30-year kind of revenge story I think is really cool. That's a cool aspect of how to kind of play into this. And I would love to develop this further and kind of see where we can, where the story fully goes. But that's where all that potential kind of came from. But, again, all of the, you all did a really great job. It's just about kind of getting out there and again, starting, it's idea first. The best idea will always rise to the top, and I think that's just what's happened here.
Yeah, and I think, thanks, Aaron. You and Jackie both covered this pretty well, but I just want to mention, all of you did a great job. It's really hard to come up and pitch your idea and kind of get out of your head. And I think the more that you do that too, you'll start to just progress from there, because as you're getting to the next stage, next project, whatever it may be, you can really verbalize it even better, and your decks will get even better as they go, or even, better ideas. It just kind of continues from there. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah, and just always continue, we're just 4 opinions here, and there's tons of movies get made and tons of people that greenlight movies, and you should always just be working to revise your pitch, talk to more people about it, work on your pitch decks, work on your script. It's all about revising, taking input, making things better. And, just because we've picked one winner here doesn't mean that all of these movies won't get made at some point, That's just the nature of the business. So everyone should keep going.